What's up, yo? Welcome to Your One Life. I'm your host, Kim Young Kim, and I'm super glad to have you as a listener today. If you're new here, here's what this podcast is all about. This podcast is about teaching you from the greatest minds in the world, assisting you in all aspects of your life, and showing you how to lower your property tax rates by setting your house on fire. The trick is, they can't tax you on something that no longer exists. All right, so today's episode is all about showing gratitude towards others and how it's going to impact your life in the positive. And in this episode, I talk about giving people their flowers now. I talk about being honest and telling them how you feel about them and making sure that they know that they're appreciated and how you can make this a way of life. And I made a commitment to make sure that this has happened in my own life. As a matter of fact, this time last year, I faked my own death. And then I got into a super elaborate disguise. I went and sat in the back of my own funeral and listened to people as they said all these wonderful things about me. And at the end of all the eulogizing, I stood up and said, "Couldn't you people have told me this when I was alive?" Now, fast forward a year later, and most of my friends and family won't speak to me. But that's not what's important. What's important is my ego has grown larger than the Titanic. All right, so if you listened to the last episode, you know that I did some live podcasting at an event hosted by Motor Cars of Atlanta and Lamborghini Atlanta. And you heard me mention about how great the experience was for me, and that's real. From the first email to the final delivery and beyond, I've had a great experience working with them. In particular, my interaction with Bree Kavler, the Client Engagement and Marketing Director of Motor Cars of Atlanta, and also with the rest of the team, including Brandon Sazi, the GM and Managing Partner of Motor Cars Atlanta. This was a great experience, and one of the many things I have to say about them is they know how to treat their talent right. And I made sure to express these sentiments in closing emails of gratitude to them about my experience. And one effect that happened as I was experiencing this gratitude is I started thinking about past events where people who hired me treated me well. See, in the past, I used to do these gigs where I would perform stand-up comedy and freestyle rapping, and sometimes I'd be hired to perform freestyle rapping just by itself, and I would perform at these private events, galas, corporate events, conferences. And as I was taking a trip down memory lane and thinking about all the good people who treated me well, I made sure to send thank you emails and messages to people who hired me, who were particularly good to me, even though it's been some years, because I feel like, hey, I think it's worth saying again, if someone treated you well in the past, to give them thanks again for that good treatment. And I've gotten responses from most of the people that I did email and message, and they've all been positive. And most of my interactions with people who have hired me have been positive. They've been positive, they've been good, they've been professional, they've been cordial, because the majority of people are good. But I will say that my experience in this world has also run the gamut. There have been instances where as soon as I got done with my performance in which I did a great job and delivered the goods, the people who hired me became super transactional, and all of a sudden, all the good relational vibes went out the door. Now, whenever I'm interacting with someone new or working with someone new, I always play the wait and see game. I wait and see to figure out, are they KGB operatives? And if they are they the nice ones? But real talk, you get to see what people are really like after they get what they want from you. Because you already know everyone's nice to you when they want something from you, but how they treat you after you all do the thing is what really matters. And regarding the people who didn't treat me well after the fact, it's all good. I don't hold any grudges, and perhaps these people may have grown since my experience with them. But regardless of if they have or not, I can't spend time thinking about them, because what I need to do is I need to spend my mental energy reflecting on the good things that are happening in my life, the good things that have happened in my life. And I realize that the way you become happy is by being grateful for what you have, and being grateful for what you have actually expands what you can have in the future. And so that's what I've been doing a lot more of lately. I've been asking myself, what else do I have to be grateful for? Beyond this experience, beyond past experience with gigs, beyond this freaking sweet nose job I just got, beyond all of this, I asked myself, what else do I have to be grateful for? And as I was having those thoughts in my mind, I started thinking about my oldest living uncle, who is a good man, who has been so good to me, so good to my family, and he's lived such a good life. But the thing about it is, he's getting a lot older and he's struggling in his health. And as I was thinking about him, I started to realize that I've never really fully expressed the fact that I appreciate him so much. And a big part of the problem is his English isn't very good, my Korean isn't very good, and so I haven't been able to communicate with him the impact that he's had on my life. I did try to do it once with a pair of hand puppets, but he just thought I was drunk and being silly. And he was right about that first part. But as I was thinking about my uncle, I said to myself, he needs to hear how much I appreciate everything he's done for me. And I drew inspiration from a book called Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And I actually did a 3-episode series on the book last year. It is a phenomenal book that will help you get along with all the people in your life. And I'll make sure to link my series on the book in the show notes so you can check it out. Anyhow, at the end of the book, Dr. Rosenberg talks about how one day, as his uncle was failing in his health, he decided to just let his heart unleash all the feelings that he had for his uncle and tell him about the impact that he's had on his life. And he was worried that his uncle was going to be embarrassed, but instead, his uncle received those words joyfully. And then what Dr. Rosenberg did is he went home, he got super inspired, and he wrote a poem about his uncle's impact on his life, and then he gave it to him. And as I was reflecting on my own uncle's presence in my life, I remembered this part of the book, and I said to myself, my uncle needs to have the full understanding of the impact he's had on my life while he's still here. So I decided that I need to write him a letter, and I'm going to have it translated into Korean. And before I go any further, I think this goes without saying, but I love and cherish my own family. I love and cherish my mom, my dad, my brother. They are good people, and they are my freaking heart. But they know how I feel about them. They've received these messages in letters and cards and through our interactions. But my situation with my uncle is very different because he doesn't fully understand, and I feel the urgency to tell him this now. So the next morning, I'm at a coffee shop. I'm making a list of the things that I'm going to put in this letter, and I start thinking about all the great things that he's done for me, what he's done for my family, and then I start thinking about how this man has been there for me my whole life. And then I just started getting in my feelings. And then I remember the Soul Pancake video, which if you don't know who Soul Pancake is, it's actually started by the same person who started Kid President, and it's a YouTube channel that does a lot of really good work. And in this video that Soul Pancake made, they had people write about an important person in their life and to write about the good things that they did for them. And then the folks at Soul Pancake actually made these participants call this person up and read out what they wrote to them. I remember how great that video was, so I decided to watch it for inspiration. And then I started getting in my feelings more. And what I learned that morning is, if your eyes ever get sweaty in public, a trick is to tell people you just been pepper sprayed by the police, and they will leave real quickly and they won't come back. But jokes aside, that was a great video, and I'll make sure to tag it in the show notes. And after doing this exercise of thinking about my uncle and the good things that he did for me and watching this video, that afternoon I felt this deep gratitude towards my uncle, towards life in general, and it felt like my emotional well was completely filled up. And then I started thinking about professional athletes who take out a full-page ad to thank the cities that they played in after they retire, or even to thank them after they get traded or they end up leaving. And the reason why they do this is because these cities have been integral in their development. And I thought about my uncle, and in that same way, my uncle has been integral in my development, and this is my version of a newspaper ad for him. Now, this is my big uncle. He's my kun wesamchun, which is basically my mother's older brother. And in Korean culture, the way it works is you call your uncle or aunt by a title that explains exactly who they are based on their relationship with your parents. So I have different terms for my uncles and aunts on my dad's side of the family, and the terms are even based on if they're older or younger than your parent, and also if they're your parent's brother or sister. And this is why I think it's so hard for me to call older people by their first names, because this thinking has been ingrained in me. And it's always the older guys who correct me when I address them as Mr., and then they're just like, hey, just call me Chuck. And I respond, sir, I'd much rather call you Mr. Norris because I am in fear that you will roundhouse kick me through all three of the stars in Orion's belt. All right, now back to my uncle. It's important for me to give him his flowers through a letter, but I'm also giving him his flowers through this podcast. A little bit about my uncle. He is a kind and generous person. All of that goodness overflows from him, and he is just such an awesome dude. And as I talk all these good things about him, it's also important that I say that he did not just do this alone, that he also married well. And my aunt, who was a great life partner for him, was also a wonderful person and so good to me and also so good to my family as well. Unfortunately, she passed away 19 years ago. But the good news is he got remarried to a wonderful woman, my step-aunt, and she is also a super kind and gracious person, and she is such a perfect life partner for him. So my uncle has been in 2 great marriages, and he's done a lot of good alongside the 2 wonderful women he's married. And as I say, he's a good man. He wasn't just good to my family and to myself. He's also been good to everyone. All of his time in America, he was a small business owner, and he's treated his customers so well and with so much kindness that they actually brought him Christmas presents every year in appreciation for all that he's done for them. He's also a pillar to his community. He's been a church elder for a very long time. He's made a lot of money in his life, and he's given a lot of it away. And beyond all the good things that he's done for the world at large, he's also been a devoted husband and a father to 4 great kids, my wonderful cousins, one of whom will also get a letter of gratitude from me. I'm actually not sure which one it'll be, though, because I'm currently running Squid Games to see who ends up on top. But in actuality, they'll all end up on top because they had a great dad, my uncle. Beyond being a great dad, though, he's also an awesome grandfather to many wonderful grandkids. And so with all these things in mind, I reflected on everything that he's done in his life, and I wrote a letter to him honoring him in English, of course. And then I found someone on Fiverr to translate it into Korean. And then I sent it to my cousin Justin, who initially graciously offered to translate it. But I didn't want to make him do all that, so I just said, hey, can you just spot check it, make sure everything looks good? And he did that. But my cousin is also a trickster because he tried to sneak in all the lyrics to the song Fergalicious into the letter, and he thought I wouldn't notice, even though he just copied and pasted them in English. But anyhow, after writing this letter, the effect that it had on me is there has been a lightness to me that's hard to explain. A lightness of just deep gratitude for this man's presence in my life and also all the good things in my life. And I knew something special was happening inside me a number of days ago while I was being super zen while driving in terrible Atlanta traffic. I felt like I was handling the downtown connector in rush hour better than the Dalai Lama would. And now, as I'm feeling this great gratitude, it reminded me of many of the good people who have impacted my life. It reminded me of my favorite teacher in high school, Mr. S., who was an amazing teacher and the reason why I got into teaching in the first place. And a few days ago, I revisited some of the emails that I wrote him. One of them was when I was fresh out of college, and another one was one that I sent 5 years ago. And in those emails, I expressed a lot of gratitude towards him about his impact on my life. And you're probably wondering, did he respond? He actually didn't. I don't know if he actually read those emails. I don't even know if he actually received them. But even if he didn't read them, even if he didn't get them, it's important that I took the time to express my gratitude towards him. Because like everything in self-development, gratitude is an inside job. And like many things in self-development, it's also an outside job. And so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to share more tips on how to practice gratitude towards other people. Now, on my previous podcast, Young Legends, I made a 2-episode series on gratitude back in November 2020, a time where we all needed more gratitude in our lives. And in this episode, I mentioned a practice that I heard on another podcast called Mission Daily, where they shared an exercise where you make a list of 10 people that have impacted your life significantly. And then you write down 10 things that each individual person has done for you. And if you decide to do this, which I highly recommend, you may only think of 7 things or 5 things or even 3 things, but that's perfectly fine. The point isn't to hit a quota. The point is to remember and commemorate the good things that these people have done for you. And maybe they've done something very significant for you. Maybe they've helped you get out of a gang. Maybe they've helped you get into a gang. Whatever they did, you can write them a thank you letter and mention the kind things that they've done for you. And I know personally I need to do more of this in my life. So when I was at the store last week, I bought a pack of thank you cards so that I would practice this important habit in my life. Why? Because this is the best way to live. Showing gratitude is the right thing to do, and it's the best way to live, and all of us need to do more of it in our life. A great quote that I love about gratitude goes like this: feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. William Arthur Ward. Yeah, you got to give people the thanks they deserve because they deserve it. And one beautiful byproduct of expressing gratitude is that you solidify and deepen your relationship with a person. But that's not why we do it. It's just one of life's bonuses that we get for living the best way and for doing the right thing. Now, writing people thank you letters and thank you cards, this is a big thing. But what are some smaller things that you can do to express your gratitude? One thing that I've been doing for a number of years is every Thanksgiving, I make a list of all the people that I'm grateful for. And then I send each of them a text saying, "Happy Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for your presence in my life." Why? Because this is the best way to live. And a beautiful byproduct of me sending these thank you texts is they express their gratitude back to me. I get added to people's Christmas card lists. Some people have paid me back the money they owe me. And one person has even lifted their lifetime ban on me stepping foot into their restaurant. Hashtag winning, baby. But real talk, they show genuine gratitude to me because I show genuine gratitude to them. Because gratitude, like all good things in life, begets more gratitude. All right, so how else are you going to show gratitude? Another thing I've done in the past is on Veterans Day, I've sent a thank you message to my Facebook friends who have served in the military. And anytime I see someone in a military uniform, whether it's at the grocery store, at the airport, even when I'm driving by them and they're walking on the sidewalk, I make sure to thank them for their service because I am genuinely grateful for their service and I want them to know. Okay, so Thanksgiving, Veterans Day, running into random veterans, this isn't going to happen on a regular basis. So how can you practice gratitude on a regular basis, on a daily basis with others? One thing you can do is if you've had a good experience at a business, you can give them a mention in a post or a story on social media. By the way, shout out to my service provider homies. You're actually going to be able to find my devoted mechanics, my handyman friend, and my window tint provider in the show notes. Go check them out if you're in Atlanta and you need their services, and tell them I sent you. And anytime you have a great experience at a business, you can do something very small that actually helps them a lot. You can leave a Google review on their business if you feel like you had a good experience there. And that does 2 things. Number 1, it shows your appreciation. But number 2, it also helps their business to get more business. And this is something I did just last night. Here's what I wrote in my Google review. This is the best cheesecake factory in the city, according to my date. And yes, this is something that we can do on a regular basis for anyone who provides good service to us. And when it comes to expressing gratitude, the key is to say thank you however you can, because this is the best way to live. There's the right thing to do. And those people who are good to you deserve to know that they did a good job. But beyond them deserving to hear that they did a good job, one thing you need to know is gratitude genuinely gives people life. I personally have been on the other side of this many times. One particular occasion was 10 years ago. I was working at this super rough high school. I was extremely tired. I was totally worn out. I was burned out. And what I did is I took a chair from my classroom. I went outside. I put it in the middle of the sidewalk on the back side of the building. And I'm just slumped over in exhaustion, sitting there in the sun, wishing I could just crawl into bed and take a nap for the rest of the semester. And I pull out my phone because I need to make phone calls to all the parents of the kids who are failing my class. And as I'm making these phone calls, one mom answers, and we'll just call this young man Tony. That's not his name, but we're just going to call him that. And him and his boys were just complete pains in my butt. Anyone who's worked with teenagers knows that when it comes to kids who want to act up, they always get exponentially stupider when they're in a pack. So anyhow, I'm calling this kid's mom, and I say, "Ma'am, sorry to bother you, but I'm Mr. Kim. I'm your son's world geography teacher, and he's failing my class." And she's bewildered. She's like, "Failing? How is he failing your class? He loves your class. He says your class is his favorite class." And I was totally caught off guard. I was super shocked because he didn't express this in any way, shape, or form in my classroom. But as I was shocked, something happened inside of me. It's like a jolt of electricity just ran through my body. I can't explain it, but I felt completely jacked up. I sat up straight, and I felt like Popeye probably does after eating spinach, or maybe like a Kardashian when they catch a glimpse of their own reflection. And now, all of a sudden, I'm feeling energized. It put a pep in my step that powered me throughout the rest of the day, but it also helped fuel me through the rest of the school year. So why say thank you? Because people deserve to hear it, but also because as they impact our lives, we impact their lives back by stating our appreciation. Now, going back to Marshall Rosenberg's poem that I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, that poem that he gave his uncle had a huge impact on his uncle's life. His uncle actually had that poem read to him every single day until he passed away. Now, personally, I haven't been able to give my uncle this letter yet, but I will give you an update in a later episode after I've given it to him. But I felt so compelled to tell y'all about this experience because of how impactful it's been on my life. And through this recent experience, I'm reminded that not only is gratitude powerful in affecting the people that we thank, but it's also powerful in affecting us after we express that gratitude. Now, going back to that Soul Pancake video in the beginning of the episode, the people in that video were actually part of a larger study on the effects of gratitude on the happiness of those expressing it. And each person who participated in the study, who wrote words of gratitude, and who expressed those words of gratitude, their happiness went up. One person's happiness went up 19%. And there's a great reminder to all of us that we have a lot of control on our own personal happiness. And it reminds me of this great quote that goes, "It's not happy people who are grateful, but it's grateful people who are happy." So my challenge to you is to start small, to start thanking people who have impacted your life, and to make this practice a part of your daily life, because I know that if you do, it will change your life. And that's what this podcast is all about. All right, so that's the end of the episode. I hope you learned a lot from it. I hope you got a lot out of it. And I hope you take these practices into your own life towards the people who have made an impact on you. Now, if you're new here, make sure to hit the follow button so you don't miss future episodes. And if you've been listening, please rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment in Spotify. I always love hearing from y'all. And also feel free to reach out to me via email or Instagram. And I'll make sure to leave my email and my IG handle in the show notes so you can reach out. All right, so that's all I got for now. This is Your One Life. I'm Kim Young Kim. I hope you have a great day, a great week, and until next time, peace!